So we apologize for that interview. We're going to try and see if we can connect with Hanover and success a little bit later on. But now we move the conversation to another important matter, the government's imposition of tougher curfew restrictions in wake of record one-day coronavirus infections. How will that impact many of our businesses and industries? Joining us now to discuss these new curfew restrictions and how they will affect the survival of businesses are Mr. Donovan Wignall, the Micro-Size Medium Enterprise Alliance President, and financial analyst Dennis Chung. Good morning, gentlemen.
Morning,
Welcome
gentlemen.
to Smile Jamaica.
Morning.
Sir Dennis, I'm going to start with you because I heard you made some utterances about this already, and you're suggesting that this not necessarily help in the COVID fight. You think we should be more looking at getting people to do what they're supposed to do. Is that right?
Yeah, I think where we are now is that we should be dealing with enforcement. I mean, if you look at it logically, if 20% of the population has it, it means about 600,000 people have it, right? So if you are to project and say, okay, the 2 hours might bring the infection rate down per person from 3 to 2, I mean, eventually we're going to have a significant problem anyway. So 2 hours, in my estimation, is not going to make a significant difference, especially given the cultural things impact that happens on Jamaicans, where a lot of Jamaicans can't buy things and put them down. So you're going to have a concentration of the population within those smaller hours. So I think that the way for us to go is really enforcement, right? Because the negative effect on businesses is going to far outweigh the benefit of the 2 hour gain. And that is my point. And I understand where the government is, they're in a dilemma now, but what should have been happening from before is that if we had estimated that 1.5 million people are going to get it, which the health ministry did last year, is that we should have been building out that capacity to deal with it and put the plans in place. So as soon as something happens, you just action right away. Because when I look at the hospitalizations in January, there were 90. The hospitalizations we're seeing was 156. That's so 66 more persons, and we're already at 80 or 90%. That means that we have a capacity issue and an enforcement issue, which I don't think 2 hours is going to address.
Okay.
Donovan, some may say, but how will 2 hours hurt? What is your response?
Well, it will hurt some businesses.
How? In what way? I want to hear tangibly how it does.
All right, let me tell you tangibly. If I run a restaurant, and this is one of the businesses that is going to be mostly affected, I'd have to close my business at a reasonable hour to allow my staff to go home. Take, for example, Valentine's Day is coming up on the 14th. Now, a lot of people take their significant other out on Valentine's Day. Now, that's usually after 7. There is going to be a significant drop in business, for example, that period, plus the usual regular restaurant hours that a lot of them are involved in deliveries now and catering for deliveries. They'll have to close their business a lot earlier. Gas stations will have to be closed earlier to allow staff to go home. Several other businesses that operate in the after hour period, like pharmacies, etc., will have to close. Hairdressers, people that are involved in the spa and aesthetics business, all of those businesses will have to close, send their staff home early. So those businesses, which for the great majority of those are small businesses, will definitely lose revenue because they're going to lose customers at that time of the day. Most people go to those places after work. Now they're going to be heading straight home after work. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, I heard Dennis in terms of culture, but culture is dynamic. How would you respond to a school of thought that says, well, why not just encourage people to come out earlier? Why not say, listen, if you're going out for Valentine's Day, do brunch instead of dinner? Aren't there ways that we can encourage the consumer to make up for those 2 hours?
Yeah.
I'm being an advocate. I don't like to say devils. I'm being an advocate.
Yeah, but the problem with that, Delia, is that if you tell people to go out earlier, then you also cut down the productive hours of other businesses. So what you're going to see is a fall in productivity. Already the 2 hours is going to fall productivity. So if someone goes to a restaurant 1 or 2 hours earlier, it means that they leave work 1 or 2 hours earlier, and that productivity falls. So one of the biggest challenges I see that we're going to have is that we're going to have a difficulty restarting productivity, because productivity is a habit,
Yeah.
and if you are in the habit of over the past year not working as the year normally, then we're going to have a difficulty. And I was on the radio with Alfred Dawes yesterday, and he said, well, the government has to do it in order to sometimes pull back, but and I understand this point, but the thing is that businesses don't plan based on things just happening like that. Businesses plan based on predictable scenarios. So if you think that, well, after 2 weeks, I don't know what's going to happen to my hours, right? Or I don't know how the reaction is going to be, so I don't know what hours I'm going to have opening. Just like one small business person posted on my Facebook page that when the curfew hours were announced, he just sent his staff home and said, listen, I can't survive, so
Oh
I'll call
no.
you when everything is over.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sir Donovan, Dennis has given us his take and said enforcement. Is that the only other way we can go? Do you agree with that?
It's a mixed bag. The enforcement on the one hand, the government often complain about resources to enforce. Police are very busy now fighting the crime and committing resources to combating what we see as a spike in crime and murders. So enforcement, yes, after hours they'll be driving around with the lights blaring, telling people to come off of the road. But on the other hand, there has to be preemptive actions from the government as well. Take for example JUTC. I've not heard that the JUTC is allocating additional buses to go downtown to the bus park or in half a tree to take the people home earlier. So you're gonna have the same even more crowding at an earlier hour in those areas. I have not heard of them putting additional resources that Dennis mentioned in the hospital to prepare for a likely spike in the rate of infection. So preparing for what is to come, enforcement on the one hand, and of course we can't rule out what's going on with the vaccine. Information has to be communicated as to prepare people for the vaccine that is coming, and a lot of people are vaccine averse at this point in time. So it's information, enforcement, preemptive preparation, and I think that will do the trick.
Um, Dennis, I want to expand on the idea of enforcement, because one of the things I was saying is, people keep saying government must enforce, but I've been to businesses where the door says no mask, no
Yes.
entry, but people
Right.
have gone in without a mask, where social distancing is supposed to happen, but if I don't raise my elbow to ease off people, it's a problem. So is there a part to play, employers, businesses, to help to enforce these things as well? What's the
Yeah,
responsibility outside of government? Government
yeah,
can do it.
definitely. Definitely, and the Prime Minister did mention it. He did say at the end of everything that this thing comes down to personal responsibility, and that's really what it is. On the matter of enforcement, I understand that there's no resources, but you do it by having strict enforcement. So if a business person knows that if they violate, they're going to be shut down totally for 6 months, then no one is going to take that risk. If a person knows that if they violate the protocol, that they're going to face an immediate fine of $500,000, no one is going to take that risk. Even if you don't have the resources, it comes down to managing the risk that people are willing to take, and people are not going to take the risk. I remember the society also has a very important part to play, because I remember recently that the police were out there prosecuting people for not wearing masks in Africa, and everyone came down on the police. Oh, they're hitting out against the small man, and with that sort of attitude, that's a personal responsibility that the Prime Minister speaks about. We're not going to address it, and I do understand the situation the government is in now, but the truth is that the real options that are effective are what Donovan spoke about: enforcement, in information, and get the vaccines there as quickly as possible.
Yep.
There's nothing else. I mean, the economic impact is going to last for years, and if we don't deal with it properly.
Yep. Sir Donovan, how dire is this for the small and medium businesses?
Coming out of last year, it was tough. And you must understand that not every sector in the small business arena is affected. Some have been decimated. Entertainment is the most popular one where that is concerned. But it is bad for some people. Some doors have closed. Employment has gone down significantly. It is bad. But as I said, it's a mixed bag. Some businesses have boomed. Some people have pivoted to other businesses and are actually doing very well. Some, on the other hand, have had to close their doors, has had to send people home. So, I mean, it is bad, but we had gotten used to, for a while, the 10 o'clock curfew hours. And for quite a few businesses, it's going to be bad and even worse, seeing that now they have to close their doors earlier.
Yep. Well, the Prime Minister said 2 weeks. Sir Dennis, are you hopeful that after 2 weeks we'll be able to say, all right, let's try to go back to where we were and go back to 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock? Are you hopeful that after 2 weeks things will change or no?
Yeah, I'm hopeful. I think the Prime Minister does recognize the limitations. I think his hands are basically tied because the truth is that if you don't have proper enforcement, then the only trick in the bag really is to implement curfews. It's just that, it's going to have such a significant impact. So I understand the position the government is in, right? I think that the reason why we're here is because of a failure for us to enforce and plan properly on the part of the health people in terms of building the capacity. For example, they said the problem is HR, is nurses, but we knew from last year, why weren't we doing some crash courses with the student nurses, for example, which I suggested last year, to bring them up to speed so that they would be ready now, and we have a population there that can deal with it. But I'm hopeful that after 2 weeks, it will revert, because the truth is that the government themselves must be facing significant pressure. And the more we continue like this, is not just the impact on business, but the government is going to also be in a position where they can provide less and less services. And that is going to be a huge problem if that happens.
All right. Thanks to you both, and you both stay safe. Hopefully things will work for all of us. Good to see you.
All right. You too.
Donovan Wignall, the Micro-Size Medium Enterprise Alliance President and Financial Analyst, Dennis Chung. I think they call them meter maids. I think so. In certain communities, they have people who, not the police officers, who give tickets for parking and stuff. I think they call them meter maids. I'm saying this to say maybe because it's tough to ask the police to be running behind somebody who's out after 8 o'clock when they have so many other things to do. So maybe we need some folks who that's their job, just to enforce. So you see me outside and I lean up, then, I don't know what you would call them. I don't know where you would get them. But
I went into a place and after I passed the sanitization station, I realized and I went back. And then 2 women just passed me. I'm going on the line. So when I went up to the cashier, I was like, but me turned back and him, he said, well, there was one on the counter, but they didn't use that one either. So
and Mr. Chung made a good point. So maybe we needed to have been training people for this, Maybe you needed, what's the reserves, maybe you bring out the reserves as they did in the United States, and their job is to ensure that the curfew is adhered to and stuff. Tough, really tough, really tough. After the break, Social Media Talks back. Stay with us, please. Soon come.